Hey everybody, welcome to the channel and welcome to the stream. And I have the pleasure of actually having a guest today. So with us is Mark Cheffins, all the way from Folkestone, England. How are you today, Mark?
Hi, Mark. Yeah, warm, as many people might have seen on the weather about the UK. It's very, very warm. It's just 30 degrees where I'm at the moment, and it's been hovering like that for the past 2 weeks. It's
Boy,
great. Us Brits just moan about any sort of weather. If it's nice, it's too nice for too long. If it's too cold, it's been too cold for too long. But no, I'm really, really good. And thank you so much for having me.
of course. And based on the images that I saw on Google Maps when I was researching Folkestone, it looks like an absolutely beautiful place. So you're right off the coast. I mean, it looks amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I live. If I wanted to drive down to the beach, it's five minutes. I mean, with the traffic at the moment, the traffic works maybe 10 minutes, but um, I'm that close.
That's
So
amazing.
it is a lovely place to be, and supposedly on one travel thing, it was voted in the top 10 best places to go in the world, and it is beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. It's the southeastern part, right, Mark?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. On
mm,
if the weather's clear, I can see France,
yeah.
um, and
So
it is a beautiful place to live.
yeah. So for everyone who's joining us, thanks for being here. So Mark he's a sound recordist, sound editor, field recordist, dialogue editor, and also the owner of Mac One Sound and creator of what we're here to talk about today, amongst other things as well. Because Mark has a very interesting background of the knob, which is a genius, innovative product to control the volume knob on your MixPre. So, Mark, one of the things that kind of popped out right off the bat when we connected, and I kind of I had heard of the knob, but I just I don't know what happened. I didn't know what it did or where it came from, and I started checking you out, and I noticed that you went through you spent some time at Lucasfilms doing various types of THX certifications. Tell me about how that came about, because I'm pretty sure that's on the other end of the pond as San Francisco.
Yeah, I it all started. I left college with my electronic servicing certification to the world of unemployment, and I, being young, 17 and a half, and I walked into a hi-fi shop and went, "I need a job. Give me a job." And he went, "Okay." And there's an expression in the UK called being a tea boy, which is just getting the teas and coffees. It's a bit
Yep.
like a runner. Um,
Yeah.
the first day, and that launched what I didn't know at the time, which was nearly 20 years at that end of the signal chain. So I started to learn about the actual different units of hi-fi that developed into. I was there at sort of the birth of surround sound in the domestic end. So I was designing surround sound systems for playback. That progressed on sort of 15 years later. From that point, I was designing fully purpose built playback theatre rooms to very wealthy people. And I didn't know at the time some of those people were directors and producers. Um, and I'd always seen the THX logo pop up at the beginning of some movies. And it fascinated me about the ethos to recreate what the director intended or what the artist intended. And that stuck with me. So I had the opportunity in 2000 to pay an extremely large amount of money to go over to THX and Skywalker Ranch and start the training on designing rooms to play back as the director intended. And it was an eye opener, to say the least, learning about room acoustics and all of these little things I had been unconsciously doing before I got there. And because of just the way I am of absorbing information and wanting to do the best that I can at the particular thing, I had sort of accumulated a lot of material and knowledge before I went out there. And then that progressed to getting the certification once, about 5 times. As the technology changed and they changed the certification process, I then carried on going. And it changed from the audio to the video, and I became a certified video calibrator as well. And I then got poached from there, from the retail job that I was doing, into working for a manufacturer, which at the time was Onkyo Electronics, which then became Pioneer in Onkyo Electronics, as everyone in the industry knew it, even though it was Onkyo that had bought the Pioneer brand.
So before you went into the Pioneer thing, tell me a little bit about the experience of actually being at the Skywalker Ranch and what kind of impact that had on you, and as far as like your passion for sound and the evolution of your career.
The moment I got off the bus and my foot touched hallowed ground, because I'm a Star Wars fan anyway, and I had been from when my father took me in 77 when I was 5, it just felt like home. It sounds really corny, but I'd had that from that age, and then I'm there. And being able to, not only all the theory and all the coursework that we had to do, actually going to the ranch, going into the mix stages with mix engineers, asking them questions, and actually understanding of the physics that we were learning in acoustics and how sound works, and that being realized as an object moving across the screen visually, but then how that steered and panned acoustically across a room. And then the hardware was, fantastically large, complicated pieces of hardware. But the whole ethos of driving everything to be as perfect as it has to be for what the director wants, it just captured my imagination even more. When I came out of that and went home and designing these systems, it took me a long time to let go that not everybody wanted that exactness of what the director wanted in their own playback system. And that was another education of, in my head, I divided the groups into 2 people. Is, okay, you want it your way, or you want it the accurate way. And that's that's the way I settled within it myself. Okay, sometimes the way people liked it happened to be the way that I wanted to design it, but that wasn't always the case. So I managed to satisfy myself on doing the best job I possibly could. Reference, if someone didn't want it, the THX way, let's call it.
I love how you combined your passion not only for sound and films as a young person going to see Star Wars in 77, but also took your engineering degree out into the workforce and then found yourself at the Skywalker Ranch. It's just, to me, an amazing thing. And I did some research on I was curious, what does it take to get a THX certification? And I learned that just the architectural aspects of that can be in sometimes the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the, having built, what I'll call private and semi-commercial studios my whole career, acoustics play such an immeasurable role in the sound of a room. So this room here it's a 5.1, and I remember when Pro Tools just announced that you could do the down convert of Atmos and monitor in 5.1 or in binaural, and what a great news that was. But I have such a respect for that, and you said you had kind of recap a little bit. You said that you actually traveled. It was from 2000 off and on all the way to 2011. So this was almost a decade of your career going with these different certifications.
Yeah. Because they kept changing the certification. as the new technology came out, and I think there was some political stuff going on there at the same time, especially when George sold. Sorry, I'm saying it as if I know the person personally. When George Lucas sold the THX brand, things changed politically and the training courses changed. I noticed that in the way that they were, the tutors discharged information. There was a difference between the before and after. So on the audio side, I've done it maybe 4 times. To there was different levels at the time: technician level, home certification level, and then the additional video certification on the back end of that. But my core has always been audio from leaving college. I mean, I used to, in the very broadest, rawest term, mix front of house for my mates' bands at the local bars and pubs. Bearing in mind, I grew up with it's all been heavy rock and punk bands. So, you know, when I first started doing it, they used to pay me in beer, which, you know, surprised everyone used to really enjoy the whole evening.
Yeah.
Whether that was me or whether that was the beer, I don't know. So I've always had an interest, and I've always developed, you know, a wanting to know more and learning. Okay, why does that do that? Fortunately, I could have the servicing and the engineering background. It helps me understand a fair amount of things to a certain degree. And even then, sometimes I just put my hand up and say, is it worth it? It's like, yep, or no.
So fast forward, you know, you had done, you know, some work with AQIPA and connected distribution. And then you also were talking a little bit about, before I recap back to Skywalker Ranch, about another brand that you did a stretch for with as like a technical role. Tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, so when I started at Onkyo Electronics, first couple of years, I was a technical sales rep for Onkyo. So that would be the typical rep thing of walking into dealers and selling them brown boxes for them to sell off to the customers. But the difference with me, because I spent such a long time being called we used to call it being a custom installer, and yes, I've got the t-shirt, I can walk the walk and talk the talk. I would actually help them on their higher end builds to make sure that a piece of Onkyo was specified into the system. But it gave them a confidence because they had me in the background that they could run to if they got stuck. And it meant I was doing something different all the time. And then that developed me to being the UK product manager for Onkyo and Pioneer. And I used to do what was the terminology there? I was the product trainer for the trainers. And we used to have these train the trainer sessions where I would drop into somewhere in Europe. 300 or 400 people would attend. I would do the same in North America. Egypt was another, Turkey was another country that I used to do that. That was more international people. And I would train the trainers on the products and the technology and why we would do it one particular way rather than another. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it, but it then came to a point where the keeper, Onkyo, started selling off its distribution arms in Europe and North America. And the company that bought the European division had decided that they only wanted sales staff inside Europe, which meant everybody else had a target painted on the back. And in Europe, there are very, very strict laws about getting rid of people. And they played by the rules. And if you buy a company, you cannot do anything with the staff for a year minimum. And then there's this lengthy process.
So it's very interesting to me how you come into, you know, you had this technical background, Then you get to see all of this creative work and get your certifications for THX at Skywalker Ranch. And then you have these rep skills as well, working with products and understanding the needs of end users. That kind of goes all through your career. And then comes the launch into Mac One Sound around 2021. Yeah. And you also introduce the knob. Tell us a little bit about that transition.
Yeah, so I was made redundant as COVID was happening, as a lot of people around the world were. And I thought I want to be a sound recordist. I had always enjoyed doing the production that I did when I was working at Onkyo. So I had a chat with the wife and we agreed. So I took a large portion of my redundancy and went and bought a load of equipment, because the one thing I didn't want to get laughed off set. That was the one thing that I wanted to buy, some equipment that would last me, do the job properly and sound good. And one of the benefits of all of the hi-fi work that I used to do is all the critical listening that I did and learning of, but it's basically hard EQing, being able to put different pieces of equipment together to get an end result sound, whether that would be smooth or bright or tailored to a particular person's needs. So I thought, I want to do this, and I think I have the technical ability to be able to do this. I just have a whole load of different muscle memory sets I have to learn. So yeah, I went and bought myself equipment. One of those pieces was MixPre 6, and after using it for 5 minutes, I thought, okay, this isn't working. The input dial on the side of the unit, I can understand why it was put there. The unit is built to a price, and it's designed to a price, and what it does very well. So that started me on the process of, okay, how and if I can actually control this remotely. And that started the slippery step of the knob. And yeah, the actual back end of how it works isn't very complicated. It's all down to timing. Actually, the different lines of code, and as you turn the dial, how those lines of code are actioned. That I found to be the tricky bit, because I was using it in my small bag, because I have an 833 for work, and then I tend to use the MixPre for any field recording or other stuff.
Yeah, and it's all in it.
Sorry, carry on.
No, go ahead, Mark. Yeah, you were saying I was actually speaking to. It solves a particular problem on the MixPre 3, and tell us a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, so the side action controller, it just so happens that I have my MixPre, and if anyone who actually has the MixPre knows, they've got the input controller on the side, which means if you're not using an Orca bag, you have to stick your fingers in the side. If I put a little rubber cap on the top, so I by feel I'm straight there. And I decided that wasn't good enough, so that proceeded to then start the design of the knob. It needed to be simple, and it needed to work every time.
And we actually have that here too.
Oh, cool. As if by magic, movie magic.
Yeah.
And I must have been the iterations. I had a friend of mine help me with the initial code, because I am not a programmer in code. My brain isn't wired in that particular way, but I was fortunate enough growing up that my father was an engineer. He had a lathe and a milling machine in his workshop, and from as far as I can remember, he used to sit me on his workshop bench, and I used to watch him making things. And he taught me a huge amount of everything. And that's the way I think. How can I build that? So, I mean, the first knobs out there were in aluminium shells. Then I decided, okay, I can reduce the weight of that. So then I decided to invest in a 3D printer, which has been an ongoing sense of fascination and frustration, both at the same time. And the development of getting the code to action at the right time. So when you turn the dial in the normal recording mode, it will actually increase the headphone volume in steps of 2.
Instead of what now, Mark?
So in steps of 2, it'll actually jump up 2 dB on one turn. On one indent turn, it jumps up 2 dB. When you go into the menu of any of the inputs and adjust the input trim, that increases by 1 dB.
Yeah, let's go ahead and check it out a little bit. You know, one of the first things when you sent me the box, which I thought was beautiful, which gave me a chuckle right away when I opened it up, was the sticker that says, "Please play with your knob responsibly." I thought that was really, I got a chuckle out of that.
Boy humor.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things right out of the gate is just I noticed that the hardware is really absolutely fantastic. I mean, you can tell just by feeling it. Now, what'd you say this material was here on the outside?
That's PLA plus. It took me quite a long time to find a nice. It's an extra strong PLA material.
Okay.
That I found prints nice because I want the finish to look good. And, you know, I mean, I've got, 4 here, which they've printed, but to me, they don't look good enough. So I bin them, and then I'll print again until they look good enough. And it's double walled. It's actually double walled.
You had... Sorry, Mark. You know what it is there's a little bit of a delay between us.
Yeah.
So, you know, I use MixPres all the time. I've got 2 of them, and they have various use. And just this last week, I was traveling and using it for car drop because they didn't want to transition. There just wasn't enough time to go from bag to car. So having that second recorder was a huge deal. And and you're right. And just to reiterate, like what you said, trying to reach down and adjust the headphone knob on the side can be kind of just cumbersome and inconvenient, and it's I've also found that sometimes when you press it in, it's not always very responsive. So it's definitely not the strength of the design of the MixPre. So this is thank you for sending this, by the way.
No, you're more than welcome.
I had heard about it, and it's funny, I didn't even research it when you sent it. I was like, I don't know what this thing does. I know there's a controller. And I just, so let me just kind of plug it. It has a really, really nice clip, very, very solid. And it reminds me of the Sound Guy Solutions clips. Gene, if you're familiar with him, in LA, who owns Sound Guy Solutions. So, and then here, once you clip it on your bag, you just plug it into the USB, like so. So we'll go ahead and do that. Let me get the orientation correct here. And, all right, this is me not knowing how to plug into a USB, just in case anyone's wondering. And then there we go. So that's plugged in. So yeah, simply by moving, so for instance, when I was doing the bag drop work, I would need to put on the headphones to listen to monitor to what we were capturing in the car. So just like so turning it off and on, like being able to quickly access the bag, which was literally shoved in the corner with a sandbag, right? And listen to the headphone volume real quick was a lifesaver. And as you can see here, just by simply turning it here, it just goes, like you said, in 2 steps. And what a difference. I mean, this feels better than the 8 series headphone knob, if you ask me. And,
I don't think it's that good.
And then it's also push. as well. So if you go into the different menus here and, walk me through some of this here. So if we go into, if we want to scroll through menus, like we could just simply do that like so.
I have found they've changed depending on what menu you're in, they have changed the orientation program. So if you just press number 1 input trim to go into that input, now that gain's automatically selected, so you can turn it up and down, and that's in 1 dB increments. Now if you press the enter button, if you press
the knob,
if you press the knob, it's taking you out of. It's sort of the enter because you've made your selection. Yes, think.
Very, very nice. Yeah. So now we're PFL here, and then just to back out.
Yeah, and now once you've pressed the enter and you've come out of the PFL, that will work the volume again, the headphone volume.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and just using it right out of the bat, just quickly getting that volume up and down, because I wasn't even using this bag. I was using another bag I don't have here, which is like an old Porta-Brace bag, just because it's a little lighter and easier to squish in a Pelican case when I'm flying. The access is dubious, and the other thing that I'll say about it right out of the back is, anytime you're reaching in these bags to the side to make adjustments, you're always inevitably going to be tugging on a cable, pulling on a cable, and that's a great way to get, a connection, the issue on something that gets tugged on too much. So the less I need to get into the sides and the more I can operate from the top, the better. Is this exclusively to the MixPre?
Yeah, it will work with any of the Gen 1s and Gen 2s because I developed the whole thing on my MixPre, which is a Gen 1. Yeah. And it will, if you plug it into an 8 series, it will work. But it seems to, depending on how they've done the program.
It does work with the 8 series. Oh, I didn't know that.
But the dial, everything seems to work backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And I did change some programming and did a sort of prototype version to run on the 8 series. But depending what menu you're in, it changes because you've got the 2 dials on the 8 series, either side of the screen. It is dependent on the action of which dial you would be using. And it seems to be anything that you would use for the volume dial, it's fine, it's just back to front. Mm-hmm. That's easy, correct? Change the line of code. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, good. One thing I just want to interject is, also props to Sound Devices for, I know initially when they launched this and also with the 8 series, they really encouraged third-party manufacturers to develop controllers. I don't know if that was just kind of a side effect of them not having a mixed controller when the 8 series was first announced, but that, hey, we were supporting third party while we work on getting our bespoke version up and running. But I've always known that about the MixPre is you can use custom controllers and 8 series. And tell me how your experience has been with Sound Devices as far as the collaboration is concerned when developing third-party products like this.
I mean, it was years ago that I contacted Sound Devices, and I'll be honest, and no fault of them, they weren't really interested in providing me any information or asking me, what do you want help with? We can do it for you, but we're not going to tell you how we do it. There was no sort of interaction. It was a very sort of damp response. And I went, okay, because I'm nobody. So I didn't have any sort of social media following, or I was new to this side of the industry. And it's like, who's that? So it's like, yeah, that's fine. I mean, my prototype, which is actually still with me, is sitting up there, is sat in my bag for 18 months before anybody saw it.
Yeah, can you show us the prototype? If you have it right there, let's put it up on the screen.
Bear with me.
Yeah.
No, I lie. I have lied. I only have the housing. What's left of it?
That's still super cool. So that was the
That's
initial proto. Now that looks like it has more going on than just a volume knob, though.
yeah, that because it was a bit of a BMS as well as the volume knob as well, because I wanted to kill two birds with one stone. I then did develop, just the knob by itself. This has developed into something else, and it's again one of those things that I want to test till I break it before I sort of really talk about it. I mean, things like these displays are really quite cool, but depending what colour you get will depend how long it lasts. But yeah, okay. Where is it? So that's the. No, there's no battery in there, but that is what the original one turned into.
Wow, look at that. So it solves the power.
Yeah, so BMS, it's got 6 Hirose on the back. 3 Hirose, 3 TA4s.
Oh, show us that on the back. Show us the back of the unit that has those. So the front has. We'll do the front and back, but start with you talking about the back or the front. Yep.
Okay, I'll start with the front. So you've got a headphone socket.
Yep, headphone. Yep.
The knob as you know it.
Mm-hmm.
And then wrong way. And then you've got a BMS, which is 2 banks of 3. But then those on the back of those 2 banks of 3, I put 3 TA4 power connectors and 3 Hirose, just to give me options.
That is brilliant. Because so having, for those who, maybe who don't know, having all those power outputs available through a distro allows you to power other equipment that might go with the MixPre 6, such as wireless receivers. Is that right, Mark?
Yeah.
And any other kind of tools that you might need in a setup, like, a redundant recorder or you name it. It keeps you from having to mess with the rear when it comes to power, which it kind of solves the SD problem too, because the less things you have connected to the rear, the easier it is to access the SD card.
Yeah, and I've just got a. No, it's not going to unplug now. I'm trying to do one hand. I built up a 12-volt switched inline switch, just very basic cigarette lighter style thing to USB, because I was using a powered USB in here until it died. So the only issue that the knob has is when you go into the QWERTY keyboard side of the MixPres, Sound Devices have changed the input data stream. That's the easiest way I can explain. So it doesn't work. It just sits there and does nothing.
Yeah, that's kind of.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So that's why I tell everyone, I put it everywhere about 3 or 4 times so everybody knows, either a little wireless keyboard or the wing map, because I'm very, very upfront.
Show us the Wingman. Because the Wingman app allows you. Show what you were talking about there. Okay, so that allows you to enter the QWERTY information in the MixPre 6, but there's a USB port that needs to plug into on the MixPre, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So how do you work with that with the knob? Like, considering there's one port, and let me go to that screen here. Yep. Oh, I see. So this is the splitter. Okay.
Yes, and this is actually a 3-way.
Okay.
Kiwi Bird. I've had a lot of success with the Kiwi Bird 2-way.
Okay.
and I thought I'll try this and see how this works. So currently I've got the receiver for the keyboard and the USB port for the knob, and that's working fine, but it is only 2 units. Now people with the Gen 2s, they've got the recording facility to the USB drive.
Yeah,
so it's all down to power draw. The knob draws 500 milliamps, which gives you 500 more milliamps with the Gen 1s.
Mm-hmm.
The Gen 1 MixPres, I think the maximum output current is 1 amp. The MixPre 2s, I think, is double that. So it depends.
When you split it off, it depends how much power each one. Do you know how much power the backup flash draws to do that?
No. I had interesting conversation with David Patterson in Australia. If you're watching this, Dave, he plugged in a 64 gig USB stick into the Kiwi drive, and it wouldn't boot or read. He then plugged in a 32 gig, and it did. So there are these odd combinations that, if you put them together, things fall apart. But the community on Facebook seems to be really good at people going, well, I've got this combo and it works great. Yep, and there's so many lovely people in there, and I'm really so grateful to everyone who's been so supportive of this project and who's bought them from me. But it's a really good community of people, I've just got my knob and it doesn't work and I've got it in this combo, and then someone will pipe up and say, oh, I've tried it with that USB, it doesn't work, use this one, I've had joy with it. So yeah, there we go. That was the BDS knob. But I like to try and test things till absolute destruction before I put it out there, because personal pride and nothing is ever good enough side of things. But yeah, they've been used all over the world, and I'm really grateful of the people that have bought them and the people who are thinking about buying them. So you've gone quiet, Mike.
There we go. Thank you so much. So they can go to the group, the knob control over your MixPre, and then this is how they can get in touch with you if they're interested in ordering one. Great.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's. I set it to ask one question, and that's, you promise to be a good human or something, and then it auto lets you join in. I mean. I've been part of these secret Facebook groups that you have to stand on your head and using 9 toes to press 5 buttons. I've been there, done that, and it's just not funny.
Yeah, this is great. Well, Mark, thanks for taking the time to talk about this with me today. It was really, your career is really interesting to me. I know, right now there's a lot of change in the film industry, and I've seen it this last 2 years. And seeing folks like you is inspiring, taking engineering backgrounds, taking rep backgrounds, and doing what you're doing with the sound editing and sound effects recording, and continuing to stay committed to innovating in the craft of audio. And I just think it's inspiring. I love finding, the best products that I always find are from other sound people who are passionate about this, and that's exactly what you're doing. And you got some comments from some people who are loving your product here. Ben says, love the knob, wasn't using my MixPre 10 much before getting it. Interesting.
Awesome.
Probably has a lot to do with access, just solving one problem. I mean, headphone volume is huge. We're always going back and forth. Think about this, how many times on set are you doing this to adjust something and then needing to go like this again. And if you've got a mic or lav or something hot, or you have a talent near you, then you're going to get feedback. Like everything is a rush. So just having that real simple solution to me is just being able to come in and do that is epic. Sometimes the best ideas are the simplest ideas, and I think that's what we have here. Alejandro, hello, good to see you here. The little humor here. I'm assuming it's not slang UK meaning the knob. And then I think this comment was a little bit behind here. What website should we check for this product? Just to reiterate, in case you're just joining us, if you're interested in the knob and ordering it and getting in touch with Mark, simply just go here to the Facebook group. There's other users who you can talk to and learn more about it to see if it's going to be a fit for you. So that's that information. But I think that's it for time. I know we got to get rocking and rolling. Mark, thank you for taking the time to come on the channel and talk about this. And
thank you
so
much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
I mean, immediately it changed my workflow. Like immediately. Like I was in Chicago for Lollapalooza last week, and it was a very fast moving shoot. And just having a simple solution like that was really a game change for me. So I appreciate that. And thanks everyone for joining us. I'll put links below to the Facebook group or whatever that's relevant. And be sure and put your comments below, subscribe, whatever, all that stuff. And we'll look forward to seeing everyone soon. Thanks again, Mark.
Thanks, Michael. Absolute pleasure.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.